Hey, it is Emma from Difference in Skill, and this is episode 11 of Cards for Thoughts. And today I'll be talking about the new Nova Grappler card from the new extra box, which is coming out soon. So this is Galaxy Ballkugger. And let's start the Limit Breaker 4 effect. So Counterblast 2, choose 2 Nova Grapplers from your hand and discard them. When attacked by your Vanguard or Rearguard with Ball in its card name hits, if it is the first unit with Ball in its card name that hits a Vanguard during that turn, you may pay the cost if you do stand all your units in the same column as this unit. And he is also a Crossrider Stern Ballkugger, if you guys didn't know, which is all the way back from set 3. Okay, so basically his condition or the cost for this card's effect to activate, it's the same as his previous form, except it's actually easier to achieve now. Especially now because they made the Balk archetype in the new extra box. Players basically have all the Gundams they want to play now, or they have all the Balk, like the Balk archetype. So basically, it's idealistically or pretty easily to say, you can probably have a full field of like the archetype, meaning that this effect will be able to trigger fairly easily. Now this card puts a lot of pressure on your opponent, especially at late game, where your opponent really doesn't want to take a restanding Vanguard effect, and because you can actually use this card, well, it has to hit your Vanguard, so that's the first condition, which is kind of the demerit, I suppose. But of course, because the Crossfire version made it a lot easier to activate, it's kind of a different story now, because your whole field will be blocked. Basically, whenever one of them hits the Vanguard, assuming that all your units are attacking the Vanguard in this turn, you're forcing your opponent to basically block every card. Now, or every attack. Now, basically, that's kind of the upside of this card. I wouldn't say there's really any downside of this card, beside that it's kind of a cross ride, but I mean, you don't really have to ignore the cross rides. Okay. For the downsides, because I'm not really reviewing the other cards right now, I kind of just took like a momentary look. But the downside of this card is that because the Balk archetype kind of focuses on restanding, like not just the Vanguard but the Rearguard itself as well. And the Rearguard's condition for standing is, I think, hitting the Vanguard as well. So basically, players who play this card kind of might be put into the condition, like forced into the idea that they have to take their Rearguards and basically hit something first. And you wouldn't really want to attack the Vanguard first with your Rearguard, because if that happens, then your opponent will probably likely just take it. Especially if they're at 4 damage, then it actually makes sense to take the attack first, because then you cannot fulfill the condition of this card anymore, because it has to be the first block to hit the Vanguard. Now it includes itself, so that's very good, because it means that if you're taking this card to attack your opponent first, or if you're taking this card to attack your opponent's Vanguard first, then you're basically guaranteed to kind of trigger an effect as long as they hit, and it forces the opponent to basically give you your hand very fast, or it's forcing your opponent to block. So on the upside of this card would be really to it forces your opponent to be really hand intensive. They would have to guard everything. Now, how good does this do in the meta? Against certain clients, like against top tier clients, I think it's still fairly powerful. Especially against something like Narukami. This client would still work fairly well, because as long as you can put a Rearguard back out, then you can basically still try to trigger your restanding Vanguard effect. Of course, sometimes the issue with Narukami is that you might actually not have Rearguards to play, but I mean, you can just take... I think it's just you need a hit. Oh, well, in that sense, you still need it. So you can still take weaker units and attack your opponent's Vanguard, and it will still force them to block, because they probably don't want to deal with a restanding Vanguard. Especially if you get triggered, then having a Vanguard restand with the back roll as well can be pretty devastating. Oh, well, that's actually something I kind of miss. You stand the back roll as well. Now that's actually very powerful. But but I think that's fairly obvious as to why it's very good compared to other restanding Vanguards that don't restand the back. But I mean, it's kind of similar to Raging Form, but better because it's less hand intensive, or it's less costly. First of all, because you don't need to pay 3 costs, or you don't need to pay 3 units on your field. You do pay 2 cards, but it's Raging Form needs to pay like 4 cards in total, so that's way more. Back to meta talk is that if you're against something like Link Joker, then you still do fairly well actually, because as long as they're not locking both your rolls, they would still have to block everything because your restanding condition is fairly easy to achieve. It might kind of conflict with your clan's abilities, but the idea is that as long as you take your Vanguard hit first, then it will force a lot more out of your opponent. Now, not all the support is out yet, but I'm assuming we'll just basically see a generic things. I mean, the other support I saw was some sort of restanding. It's like a weird card with restanding ability, and it gains power for counterblast as well, so it's quite good. And that's really all I have to add to this card for now, and I'll be back in episode 12.